Is gaming flopping out of existence? It seems like that's the case with Ubisoft, as it shutters one of its better games that came out, Prince of Persia: Lost Crown. And of course, its failure is reflecting back on what we're seeing in the entirety of the gaming industry, where we're seeing titles that, no matter their makeup, are failing because the overall design is following the tropes of the modern audience. And I think that's the exact thing that we're seeing with Prince of Persia here, and its overall franchise ending and its studio being disbanded, because this was a game that was following the trends to the T. And I'm talking about the main character and his overall design. You can just see how he looks and has the same haircut that we always see with this type of franchise, the Killmonger cut, which is something I absolutely hate in the modern gaming industry. And we see it almost every single character, whether it's animation, whether it's Spider-Man 2, or whether it's any fighting game. We see the Killmonger cut everywhere, and I think this is the persistent thing that gamers are tired of, seeing the tropes within the industry occur again and again. And if you don't know what I'm talking about Killmonger from Marvel's Black Panther, who had the legendary haircut that we see now exhibited in most video games that come out nowadays. But Prince of Persia is not the only game that's failing. It seems like everywhere you turn in the gaming industry, there's a flop or a major disaster, with a AAA title coming out to underwhelming numbers into the disaster of an entire gaming studio. And nothing's different with the Until Dawn remaster that just recently come out to a whole host of criticism and overall aggravation from the fan base, from the bugginess of the game to the overall unimpressive upgraded graphics. And this is the industry standard nowadays, where we're getting remakes, reboots, and overall remasters that add nothing to the game that we once so loved, and maybe even tear that game apart. And I think what we're seeing with Until Dawn is the former, because it seems like it's pretty much the same game, which is a pretty bad situation if you were looking forward to seeing this game actually be remastered. But then again, why would you remaster a PS4 game that already looked amazing? And that is what a lot of people are saying about the Until Dawn remaster. And I have to say, the Steam numbers are showing that disdain from the fans. And that's what I have to say about this game. Not too many people are playing it. We had peak numbers of over 2,600 people playing at its initial release, but average peak for this game is around 1,500 people, which is showing that we're not getting the money's worth for the studio that has developed and put time into actually putting this game into place, putting out a worse product for the value of the game players at a whopping $60. I don't know how they're going to get their money back. Then again, maybe the lack of development in the game is reflecting how much little time they actually put in remastering the game. Just looking at some of the comparisons of the upgraded and the downgraded graphics from the PS4 to the PS5, you can't tell which one is the remaster and which one is the actual original title. A lot of people would say the upper one is the remaster, but no, the bottom image is the remaster, and it just doesn't look as impressive, as smooth, and as detailed as what we would expect from a remaster with upgraded graphical power. And that is not the case with Until Dawn. It's a lower grade game that is producing less value for the players that are out there to buy the game. So it makes sense that it's not having the same amount of Steam players. Of course, you can add console and all these other systems. Maybe it has a little more player count over there, but you can actually just purchase this game pre-owned if you have the physical disc copies online and get something cheaper. So what is the purpose of this graphical upgrade if it looks like a downgrade? And I think that's essentially what we're seeing with the images, where I think the overall PS4 version is actually better than what we're seeing on the PS5. So it makes no sense to actually get that graphical upgrade. And this brings me back to the topic of what's happening in the gaming industry right now, where we're seeing continuous downgrades and downshifts in the overall quality of the games that are coming out right now. You can just add Until Dawn in the trash heap of flops and overall disasters that have come out this year. You have, of course, Skull and Bones, Dustborn, Star Wars Outlaws, Kill the Justice League, Concord, the biggest flop in history. You have so much titles coming out, and it makes you think, is this the industry for the future of gaming right now, where we consist of remaster, reboot, remakes, or overall divisive, politicized video games that have no intention of actually entertaining the gamer? That seems to be the case right now of what we're seeing in the gaming industry, where it's all about the easy paycheck or the easy way to pander, and both sides lead to bankruptcy apparently. And that's what we're seeing right now with the remake of Until Dawn, and that's what we're seeing with a lot of these titles that are coming out that are failing, and is making you think, has there ever been this amount of failures in the video game industry in the past? I think sure there were a lot of titles that weren't that good, that weren't that praised, that were of course flops in their own, but at such a substandard level, I think even the bad games of the past were still functional and playable, and that's just simply not the case with a lot of games that are being released right now, where they're not functional, where they're not playable, where the skill set and design quality is downright low grade. And I think that's what we see with a lot of titles that have come out recently. And when we look and compare of what came in the past, we kind of have a stark difference of overall skill and talent, and that's why you can make these comparisons where I'm looking at PS4, PS5 graphics. I see the shine on the PS5, but it seems like the quality and skill and depth of talent that went into Until Dawn just seems starkly more impressive to me as we even look at the comparisons. Even though I can see that a graphical power show itself, it feels like there's more care and talent within the quality of the game that came from the PS4, and they understood the horror genre. This feels like someone's trying to use the graphical output because all they have is lighting. That's why there's so much light in a horror game, where I'm thinking this is not how a horror game's supposed to work. We're supposed to be in the dark and the shadows, and that is limiting for someone that is wholly depending on graphical output to make a quality game. And that's the situation that we're seeing here, even with some of the looks and feeling of some of the characters. I feel like some of their facial structures have been downgraded to look more unattractive and unappealing, in line with what we've been seeing in all westernized games, where we take some subtly attractive female and make them hideous and beyond ugly. And I think even this character, Emily, is done in the same way of what we've seen in previous titles within the Western game industry, like Fable, like Star Wars Outlaws, of course, like Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn. All these figures that have been uglified to match a politicized philosophy of body positivity for those that can't attain a beauty standard that shouldn't be even a subject for a video game player just trying to escape fantasy. But that's beyond the point right now. This is a shockingly dangerous trend that is leading to an overall disaster for the gaming industry, where we continuously have flops that no game player wants to buy, and we're having remakes that no game player wants to even see be remade. And I think for anyone hearing about remaster now, a remake of a game, we kind of hesitate, going, oh, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna change? What are they gonna make into a lower quality, more uglified version, and kind of what story elements they're gonna rip apart? And I think Until Dawn is showing that same standard as they swap and change the overall camera angles to appease those that don't want to subjectify women in any way. So we only have older over the shoulder angles nowadays, no lower angles, anything that may be perceived as showing some sort of femininity for any of the characters. So it just has these ridiculous angles that it's now taking to conform to the modern audience trend. So now hearing about remake and remaster nowadays puts fear into a gamer, where we're thinking, okay, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna ruin in the game? Beyond, why are they wasting time on a game that has already been made? And it just shows the fearfulness in the gaming industry nowadays, where they just don't know what to make anymore, and they're scared of what is going to produce at a high level for the company itself. And this is just not how you have successful gaming industry. If you don't experiment, you're not going to put out any quality product that is at a level to grab the interest of the gamers. And you can see that trash heap of flops growing every single day, while we have massive successful games across the oceans in East Asia, where we have developers trying new things, doing new things, and sticking by those ambitious instincts. And it's the opposite of what we've been seeing in the Western games development sphere, because we have Black Myth Wukong actually sticking to his Chinese culture and not bending to the will of what the Western culture demands of it. And that led to over 20 million in sales and over $1 billion in overall profit for a company that only spent $40 million in the production of the game. Same thing with Stellar Blade. It became a $1 billion company off the back of Stellar Blade, and of course there are other properties that have come out of Korea. This is showing the success that can be had still. Of course, Hogwarts Legacy, Warner Brothers, notorious failing company, but they still had a massive success with Hogwarts Legacy. And Days Gone, a game that was so successful but was roundly destroyed by the gaming trade media because it didn't conform to the modern audience trend. And this is just showing that success can still be had in the gaming industry as long as you have the skill and talent to produce content. It seems like a lot of these developers nowadays want to just run away to a remaster because it's the safest bet. And of course, they're putting the talent that is destroying the companies back at the helm of some of these great masterpieces that have come out in the past. And that's why we're getting low quality product nowadays from these remasters and remakes, and it's leading to a flopping industry that where I'm unsure of the future. But it is an interesting situation to see nonetheless that the gaming industry is flopping hard, and it maybe flop itself out of existence if it continues this trend. At least the Western gaming industry, I don't know what's going to happen with the gaming industry in the future, at least in the Western gaming industry, because it's just leading down a terrible trend where they're refusing to make hits. And of course, we see some hits here and there. Of course, we have the big trio of FPS shooters, third-person shooters that are still dominating, like Overwatch and PUBG and a whole host of other titles. But some of these are Korean titles, and some of these other titles are half owned by a Chinese company. So it's hard to say what is the future of gaming in the Western world without mentioning these East Asian divisions that are doing their own thing. But will the Western gaming industry flop itself out of existence? I wonder, and I think it's a possibility. But you leave your thoughts, tell me what you think. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.